Alrighty, good morning and welcome to the third NNP Symposium. For this session, we have a very special presentation. We are here with Ellen Feingold, the curator for the National Numismatic Collection at the Smithsonian, as well as Jennifer Gloede, the collections manager. So we will be showing about a 20 to 25 minute video to start off with, kind of showing some highlights of the collection and giving you a quick overview. And then we will jump into a Q&A with Ellen and Jennifer, so you all can ask any questions that you have about the collection and the Smithsonian as a whole. So I'm going to let each of them introduce themselves real quickly, and then we will jump into the video. So Ellen, if you would like to start us off.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ellen Feingold. I'm the curator of the National Numismatic Collection at the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History.
Alrighty, and Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us today. I'm Jennifer Gloede, Collections Manager of the National Numismatic Collection.
Alrighty, excellent. Then let me get the video up here. The National Numismatic Collection, held in Washington, D.C., is an overflowing treasure chest of numismatic gems from around the world. Comprised of over 1.6 million objects, the collection tells the story of money in multiple contexts, conveying 3,000 years of human history through the lens of monetary instruments. In this presentation, we highlight United States coins in the National Numismatic Collection, which is part of the National Museum of American History within the Smithsonian Institution. The story of these coins begins with the U.S. Mint Cabinet. The Mint Cabinet extends as far back as 1826 and was briefly described in that year by Bernhard, Duke of Saxe-Weimar-Eisenach, who visited the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia and included related remarks in his work Travels Through North America. Bernhard noted a collection of medals struck here, particularly those which were struck after naval victories. Congress granted appropriations to the Mint Cabinet beginning in 1838, but even before this, we know that the Mint collection was built on an informal basis. William Dubois, assistant assayer of the Mint, provided this detail in his 1846 work about the Mint Cabinet, Pledges of History. The collection was commenced in June 1838, Dubois wrote. Long before that date, however, Mr. Adam Eckfeldt, formerly chief coiner, led as well by his own taste as by the expectation that a conservatory would someday be established, took pains to preserve master coins of the different annual issues of the Mint, and to retain some of the finest foreign specimens, as they appeared in deposit for recoinage. The existence of the earliest proof gold pieces in the Mint Cabinet, such as this 1825/1 $5 proof, is almost certainly due to the foresight of the chief coiner Adam Eckfeldt. The Mint Cabinet had an advantage over collectors. Not only did they have access to coins struck in-house, but they also had first pick of gold and silver submitted for recoining. William E. Dubois, the chief assayer who oversaw the Mint Cabinet for a time, noted in the January 1874 American Journal of Numismatics that very many of the coins were obtained at bullion value by the then assistant assayer, watching deposits, and rescuing pieces of great value and scarcity from being melted up. Coins of the United States cost us merely their intrinsic value, and medals struck here cost nothing. The Mint Cabinet was extraordinarily popular in the 19th century, as reported by the American Journal of Numismatics in 1877. 600,000 persons visited the United States Mint during the recent centennial half-year. How they passed through without choking up the workshops, and without helping themselves occasionally, may be a wonder to those who can imagine such an army. Eventually, the Mint concluded that it should focus its resources on making coins, rather than exhibiting them. So, in 1923, the U.S. Mint Cabinet transferred its holdings to the Smithsonian. Many of the U.S. coins in the National Numismatic Collection are thus traced directly to the Mint Cabinet. However, as the federal government has made only modest appropriations for the purpose of growing the National Numismatic Collection, much of the collection has been donated by private citizens. Among donors to the Smithsonian, the Stack family has been especially generous. Their donations include a $1794 in copper, presented in 1987 by Norman and Harvey Stack. This piece no doubt served as a trial strike and is sharply delineated for a $1794, with raised stars and defined feathers in the eagle's breast. Heritage Auctions sold a similar piece from the Simpson collection without obverse stars in an April 2021 auction for $840,000. In 1994, Harvey and Lawrence Stack further donated a pair of 1879 quintuple stellas, one in gold and one in gilt copper. Also known as the metric $20 gold piece, this coin contained exactly 30 grams of gold, or slightly less than 1 troy ounce. The pattern coin anticipated U.S. coinage struck in even metric amounts, according to an international standard, but this scheme was never adopted. Gold patterns are few and far between within the U.S. coin catalog, and become even more desirable in the larger denominations. Another rare piece from the Stack family, donated in 1993, is this 1849 Ormsby $5 territorial gold piece, of which only 2 are known. With the discovery of Western gold, a number of private coiners issued gold coins in varying denominations. Many of these pieces were subsequently recoined into U.S. gold, and survivors are especially prized. Among other treasures donated by the Stacks are a pair of 1792 patterns, including a birch cent and a Getz $50 in silver. The birch cent, variety Judd 4, was produced by the U.S. Mint in 1792 as a pattern for the large cent, and is one of 7 known with 2 edge stars. This piece was previously in the Brand, Norweb, and other famous collections. The Getz silver piece, traditionally referred to as a $50, is one of 21 silver pieces traced by George Fold in his 2009 study. These were likely coined on spec by Peter Getz in an attempt to win a coinage contract with the U.S. government. In the end, Congress decided to build its own mint, which began operations in Philadelphia in 1792. In viewing the National Numismatic Collection, casual observers might wonder as to the value of various pieces in the collection. Identifying the most valuable U.S. coins in the Smithsonian collection is both interesting and pointless at the same time. These pieces will never appear on the open market, but it is fun to speculate as to what the outcome might be. The 1933 Double Eagle, of which the National Numismatic Collection has 2 examples, holds the record for highest auction price at $18.9 million. This piece was sold by Sotheby's in June of 2021 and is the only 1933 Double Eagle in collector hands, while the Treasury Department is in possession of at least 10 other pieces. Also in the Smithsonian collection are a pair of 1877 $50 or half-union patterns engraved by William Barber. These pieces, the only ones of their kind, were traded to the Mint Cabinet in 1910 by the collector William Woodin, who went on to serve as Treasury Secretary under Franklin Roosevelt. Facts are scarce, but it appears that the Treasury Department was preparing to seize the 2 coins outright until Woodin called in political favors. Negotiations began, and, in exchange, Woodin received many other pattern coins from the Mint, which formed the basis for his reference work on U.S. pattern coinage, co-authored with Edgar Adams and published in 1913. The Smithsonian also holds the unique 1849 Double Eagle, which was likely struck as a trial or ceremonial piece prior to the public introduction of the gold Double Eagle in 1850. This piece is the epitome of the iconic $20 denomination and symbolizes the gold rush and subsequent growth of the American West. Many knowledgeable numismatists consider this the most valuable coin in the Smithsonian collection, and possibly the most valuable coin in the world. The Smithsonian's overall set of double eagles, including this 1849 coin, the unique 1854 S proof, 1907 ultra-high relief, and 2 examples of the 1933, is without question unequaled in collector or institutional hands. Another way to view the Smithsonian collection of U.S. coins is to ask what coins aren't present in the collection. Keeping in mind that the corpus of the collection came directly from the U.S. Mint in the 1920s, it's interesting to note that pieces struck under questionable circumstances generally weren't represented in the Mint cabinet. There was no 1913 Liberty nickel in the U.S. Mint cabinet, but fortunately, the Smithsonian was able to acquire an example from the Norweb collection in 1979. Similarly, the Mint cabinet did not possess a Class III 1804 dollar, thought to represent a surreptitious restrike from the 1850s or 60s. Once again, a collector came to the rescue, and the Smithsonian acquired the DuPont example in 1994. The 1885 trade dollar is another example of a coin with a mysterious origin. Only 5 examples are known, and this piece is not currently represented in the Smithsonian. Similarly, there is no record of striking the 1870s silver dollar, and none of the 9 known pieces are in the National Numismatic Collection. Conversely, the Smithsonian is an ideal repository for pieces with questionable ownership. An example is the 1974 aluminum cent. Distributed to congressional representatives as samples, one of these pieces fell into the hands of a staffer for Representative Lenore K. Sullivan of Missouri. Rather than contest ownership in court, Charles B. Holstein elected to surrender the piece to the National Numismatic Collection. Apart from mysterious issues like the 1885 trade dollar, the Smithsonian also lacks certain branch mint pieces in some U.S. series. This is not surprising, as it was considerably easier for the Mint cabinet in Philadelphia to acquire coins struck at the Mother Mint. The most logical source for branch mint pieces would have been the samples submitted for the annual assay verification. However, it seems that these coins were not always set aside for the Mint cabinet. Bill Buggart, who researched the Smithsonian collection of Liberty-seeded half-dollars in 1990, identified 10 branch mint coins not present in the Smithsonian, including the key date 1878's 50-cent piece. Conversely, the Mint cabinet has a strong collection of early Liberty-seeded half-dollars in proof format. Indeed, during the 1830s and 1840s, the Mint cabinet was systematically adding proof coins, long before they caught on with the collecting public. Besides the original Mint cabinet and donations from stacks, the Chase Manhattan Bank Money Museum was also an important source of material in the National Numismatic Collection. This collection was formed in the early 20th century by Farron Zerbe, a president of the American Numismatic Association. The Chase Bank acquired the collection from Zerbe in 1928, and most notably formed an exhibit near Rockefeller Center, a mecca for tourists visiting New York City. Zerbe was especially drawn to non-coin-like objects that served as money in various parts of the world. Today, this is known as odd and curious, or primitive money. A typical display would have been this case of Asian money from an image published in 1927. Examples include money formed from bamboo, wire, or gold bars. Zerbe further included multiple examples of ring money, originating from Europe and Africa and thought to be dated as early as 300 BC. Similar bank museums throughout the country were popular during this period of the 20th century, but over time their contribution to the bottom line was questioned by bank executives. The Chase Museum was thus closed in 1977, and much of the material was donated to the Smithsonian. While not primarily focused on U.S. coins, the Chase Manhattan collection still contained desirable pieces in the U.S. series. Among U.S. coins, the Smithsonian acquired a $1794 dollar from Chase and an 1852 $50 so-called gold slug. Vladimir and Elvira Klein Stefanelli, National Numismatic Collection curators, were especially proud of the Chase acquisition and wrote in an internal memo, "The fact that we were chosen as depository for this collection increases our obligation to make the exhibit a worthwhile event." Along with Stax and Chase, the largest private contributor to the Smithsonian's U.S. coin cabinet was no doubt the Josiah K. Lilly estate. This collection of over 6,000 gold coins came to the Smithsonian in 1968 in exchange for a congressionally authorized tax deduction. Although certain territorial gold pieces in this collection were later proven to be fakes, the collection still represented an extraordinarily important acquisition for the Smithsonian. Among the Lilly treasures are this 1822 $5 gold piece. Of the 3 pieces known, 2 are in the Smithsonian, including the Lilly example and another coin from the U.S. Mint cabinet. Another rarity from the Lilly collection is the 1854 $5 gold piece, of which only 3 pieces are presently known. A 4th example was stolen from the Willis H. DuPont collection in 1967 and remains untraced. Jewels abound in the Lilly collection, such as this 1879 coiled hair stella or $4 gold pattern. One of only 12 known, this piece was struck to a metric standard and was never adopted for general circulation. Another gem from the Lilly collection is this 1815 $5 gold piece, of which only 11 are known. It is significant to note that the Smithsonian holds 2 of these coins, with the other originating from the Mint cabinet. Struck in low quantities to begin with, many of these coins were melted in the 1830s, when the bullion value of the gold exceeded the face value of the coin. In recent years, the National Numismatic Collection has taken down one major exhibit and launched another. Until 2004, much of the Lilly collection and other pieces were displayed in the American History Coin Hall, which originally opened in 1964 under the curators Vladimir and Elvira Klein-Stefanelli. In August of 2004, a select group of collectors and dealers, including the young numismatist Jeremy Katz, were invited to help dismantle this exhibit. These volunteers returned each exhibit coin to its proper cabinet and tray, and verified that each cabinet contained the full list of pieces originally removed for exhibit. Katz and others marveled at the opportunity to handle rarities such as the 1814 platinum pattern $50, in addition to iconic examples of the U.S. series, including the $1804 and 1913 Liberty Head nickel. The National Numismatic Collection opened its current exhibit, The Value of Money, on July 15, 2015. This exhibit resides on the ground floor of the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. Visitors enter the exhibit through a 1.5-ton vault door, which, while not operational, conveys the sense of security that typically accompanies the storage of valuable objects. The Value of Money exhibit explores the greater context surrounding monetary objects, from their historical origin to their artistry and the political messages that they convey. Of course, with an immense collection to draw upon, the exhibit is able to illustrate these themes with spectacular objects, such as the United States 1804 silver dollar. This is the only collection that includes each of the Class 1, 2, and 3 examples. First produced in the 1830s for diplomatic purposes, the 1804 dollar is perhaps the most storied of all American coins. 15 examples of all types are known today, and, as the Class 2 example is unique, it's safe to say that the Smithsonian collection will never be surpassed. Besides the physical exhibit, the National Numismatic Collection is making more and more of its collection available online. Collectors and researchers can access this useful resource at americanhistory.si.edu/collections/search. 2 other important documents related to the U.S. coins in the Smithsonian are the 1914 Mint Cabinet Inventory by Thomas L. Comparet and the 2006 Encyclopedia of U.S. Gold Coins by Jeff Garrett and Ron Guth, which includes photographs of the highest graded examples in the National Numismatic Collection. The vast majority of the Smithsonian's collection is not on exhibit, but may be viewed by appointment in Washington, D.C. The National Numismatic Collection's curatorial team is just an email away at nmah-nnc@si.edu, and will be happy to arrange visits for collectors and researchers. The periodic Whitman Baltimore Expo, held 3 times per year, is conveniently held in nearby Baltimore and offers a convenient opportunity to make a side trip to the nation's coin collection. Whether visiting the public exhibit or making an appointment with the curators, the National Numismatic Collection is well worth investigating. Alrighty, and that wraps up our video. And we already have a few questions in the Q&A, so we can hop right into it. So let's see. We have a question. What's the COVID situation at NNC? Is it possible to view parts of the collection not on display? If not, any idea of when it will be open?
That's a great question. So before I answer that, I just want to say that thank you for that beautiful video that I know you and Len worked so hard on. Watching it was a tremendous reminder of what a privilege it is to work with the National Numismatic Collection, and how fortunate Jen and I both are to be able to share it with all of you. So thank you for sharing the collection so beautifully. Yes, the COVID situation is a great question. The museum is open Mondays, Thursdays. Oh, Jen's making a face. Mondays, Tuesdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I think we're closed on Wednesdays and Thursdays right now. Historically, the Smithsonian has been open 7 days a week, 10 until 5. Currently, we're operating at 5 days a week, but the museum remains free. It no longer requires tickets. And the value of money, our primary exhibition, is among the galleries that are open and available for visiting. We are not currently able to host visitors behind the scenes for research or any other purpose, but we hope that will change, in the coming year as things continue to improve with the pandemic. Prior to the pandemic, and when it is deemed safe again by the Smithsonian, we are very enthusiastic about hosting research visitors in the Howard F. Bowker Research Room. We have a research room that's very proximate to where we hold the collection, proximate to our collections vault, and we encourage anyone who has a research project or inquiry to contact us at our main email and schedule an appointment with Jen or myself to come and see the collection and to use our collection in whatever projects you're undertaking. In the meantime, I'm really pleased to report that we have made great headway in digitizing our collection so that you can access it, from the comfort and safety of your own homes. In recent years, we have digitized the entire Bureau of Engraving and Printing proof sheet collection, the Josiah K. Lilly Jr. collection, the Paul A. Straub collection, the Grand Duke George Mikhailovich collection, about 8,000 of our East Asian coins, our entire Chinese banknote collection, our South African collection, our West African collection, and our German Nachgeld collection. And I list those because I am just so proud of the amount that we've been able to add to our online catalog in recent years, and also really want to raise awareness that these resources are available, and you can go ahead and start clicking away right now. And if you have any difficulty, although you can't visit us, we can be supportive and helpful of your research projects over email or by phone as you're trying to navigate the collection online.
All righty, excellent. And let's see, I see a couple requests in the Q&A to put up the link to the NNC. I'm working on getting a slide so that can go up nice and easy to see. So stay tuned, it's coming. But let's see, for other questions, how did you each come to occupy such wonderful positions? A bit of a bio they're asking for.
Absolutely. Jen, would you like me to go first? Or would you like
Sure,
to?
you go ahead.
Okay. So I always say I was incredibly lucky to find numismatics as I was finishing my doctoral work. I have a background in history. My master's is in economic and social history, and my doctorate is in imperial and global history. And I actually did my doctoral work on the history of British imperialism in East Africa. And when I was finishing my doctorate, the British Museum, I was in the UK at the University of Oxford, and the British Museum had a project that they were hiring a staff member to work on called Money in Africa. And so as a postdoc, I was able to spend 1 year in the Division of Coins and Metals. And I'd like to say that I fell in love with the collection there on the first day. I knew that I had found a body of objects that really inspired me and that I wanted to bring all of my historical training to. But I also kind of joke that I got like a free apprenticeship or a free sort of like training in museums, because I really was a novice both in numismatics and in museum studies. But I was so lucky that there were so many senior curators there who were willing to work with me and train me and expose me to all of the wonderful features of the field. And so, yeah, that was the foundation. And then after I finished my time there, I was, like many other recent PhDs, once again unemployed, and moved to Washington, D.C. with my husband. and couldn't stay away from numismatics, so became a volunteer with the National Numismatic Collection. And unfortunately, that was not long after the former curator, Dick Doty, had passed away. So I became a volunteer with the collection and began, to work with it and work with the team there at a time when, there was a plan for a new gallery, but not yet the curation completed for the new gallery. And so I worked and I started to sort of get to know the collection and again, fell in love with this body of objects in the context of the Smithsonian, and was really fortunate that about 6 months later I was hired.
Alrighty, great. And Jennifer?
Sure. So like Ellen, I consider myself very lucky to work with this collection. It's truly amazing. So in college, I studied anthropology and art history, and I loved both of those subjects. And after that, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in museums. So I went to George Washington University to get a master's in museum studies. And through that program, I studied collections management and was trained really to work with any type of museum collection. And then right after graduation, I was fortunate to get a contract position on the mass digitization of the Bureau of Engraving and Printing proof sheets in the National Numismatic Collection. So that was my first introduction to numismatics, and I loved the collection, and I loved the people who were working there. So after that contract finished, we had successfully digitized almost 300,000 proof sheets. So it was a wonderful project. I stuck around as a volunteer for a little while, and then was lucky to be hired on a slightly longer term position. And I've been with numismatics for 5-6 years now, so it's been wonderful.
And I would add to that that I saw a few familiar names in the chat who are friends of the NNC, and I want to just express my thanks to those friends who have supported the collection and supported Jen's position, which was made possible by this community really wanting the collection to have an established team and people who could really support research consultation and digitization and the things that make the collection a true public resource.
Excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and put up a slide with the link to the collection as well as the email if anyone wanted that as well. So let me pull that up. There we go. Oop. There we go. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that up for a few minutes. And let's see, I need to change the settings. There we go. I'm going to leave that up for a few minutes for the next question or two, so you all have time to write that down. In the meantime, we have more questions. Roughly how many unique pieces / exhibits are there? Which I think are two separate questions.
Yeah, let me answer the second part first, and then we'll go backwards. So we currently have one exhibition, The Value of Money, which is located on the first floor of the West Wing of the National Museum of American History. It opened in 2015, and it's been wonderful. We've really enjoyed watching the public get to see the collection again. It was off. We didn't have a large display between when the museum renovated in 2004 and 2015. So it's been a joy to be able to bring these objects, especially the rarities featured in the video, back to the museum floor and to give the public the opportunity to really get to know the collection again. I am very proud and excited to announce that we are opening a second numismatics gallery at the National Museum of American History in April of next year. April 8th of 2022 is our current opening date. And that gallery will be a little bit different because it is designed especially for kids. It will be the first exhibition at the Smithsonian about money for kids, and it's titled Really Big Money. And we have selected the largest, most unexpected objects in the National Numismatic Collection that could be large in size, quantity, or denomination. And we're hoping to use them to grab the attention of our young visitors and then teach them key concepts about money. And we've worked closely with educators to design and curate an exhibition that really meets the learning goals for elementary age students, especially 3rd to 5th graders. And we're in the final stages now of moving into production and getting ready to open, and we're very excited about it. So we will have 2 dedicated numismatic spaces at the Smithsonian by summer next year.
Very exciting.
Thank you. The first part of the question is a little bit harder question. So we think we have about 1.6 million objects in the National Numismatic Collection. I hesitate to give an exact number, one, because we don't really have one, and two, because we haven't been able to conduct an inventory for many, many years. That said, we know that about 600,000 pieces are the Confederate currency hoard, which came to the Smithsonian from the Department of the Treasury, and then the archives, and then to us. So it does count as part of our collection, but I would certainly not describe it as having a large number of unique pieces. It's mainly the same notes in repetition. The other million objects are a very large amount of paper, about 300,000 pieces of 300,000 proof sheets from the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, which are now digitized thanks to Jen's good work and the good work of the team back in 2015. We have a large international paper money collection, about 80,000 banknotes. We have, of course, the U.S. Treasury collection of banknotes. We have the colonial banknote collection, which is about 3,000. And then the rest are our coins and medals. Now, the question really was about unique pieces, and I wish I could give an answer to that. I think the truthful answer is we don't know, but we do know that we are in an incredibly privileged position because we have the U.S. Mint collection to have a large number of unique pieces from the U.S. Mint, and to have a variety of other either very rare or unique pieces from around the world, thanks to the donations of people like Josiah K. Lilly Jr., Grand Duke Georgie, Willis DuPont, donating the Grand Duke Georgie Mihalovich collection, Paul Straub, and others who themselves collected these remarkable pieces and then have transferred them to us.
Alrighty, then I'm going to take down the link. If anyone still needs it, send it in the Q&A, and I will happily pop it back up. But so that you can see everyone's faces nice and large for the rest of the Q&A. Let's see, does the National Collection only carry American coins?
That's a wonderful question. No, I am incredibly happy to report that we have objects from every inhabited continent, and we have objects that go back to ancient Mesopotamia. We have cuneiform tablets that talk about silver transactions. No, we're an incredibly global collection. I think that's really our one of our strengths. And in addition to that, we are not a traditional numismatic collection in the sense that we do not only hold coins, banknotes, and medals, which would be kind of typical for a numismatic collection. We also hold the whole range of objects that communities have used in exchange and used for transactions. So, for example, feathers, beads, large stones. You saw some examples from the Chase Manhattan and Barnes Derby collections, rings. We really capture the history of exchange and the representation of different cultures through those objects. And then we also are so lucky that we're the collection of record for the US. So we do have those right alongside the amazing coins and banknotes. And I think one of the real wonderful things about consulting the collection and the combination of these objects is that you make connections that might not be obvious at first. So, for example, we have, a Nigerian banknote, and then we have the cowrie shells and manillas depicted on the Nigerian banknote, all in the same space. So you can really start to think about multiple currency systems, relationships between indigenous and alternative currencies with contemporary currencies. And I think that's what makes the research potential of the collection so rich.
Alrighty, are there any mint errors in the collection?
Yes. Yes, there are. I'm gonna, full disclosure, as I was talking about, my educational background and my journey to numismatics. I come from a background in African history and British imperial history. So I am still getting to know the remarkable depth and uniqueness of the U.S. Mint collection and the rarities that many people get excited about. And I wanted to treat this, if at all possible, as a discussion. So if anyone wants to put into the chat or chime in their favorite mint errors in the numismatic collection, I would be thrilled to hear what they are.
Yep, so just go ahead and use the Q&A for that. Since we have the chat disabled, the Q&A is your way to talk to us. So feel free to put comments in the Q&A as well, and I'll read them out as we come to them. So we actually have two different questions along the same lines, so I'm going to kind of combine them here. Would the Smithsonian ever consider selling or trading duplicates in order to acquire missing items?
Jen, do you want me to take this one or do you want to take it? It's totally up to you.
You can take this one.
Okay. So we do not sell items from the National Numismatic Collection. One of the really wonderful things about this collection is that it's a public resource, that it belongs to everybody. It's national property and it's also a world treasure. And so we really see ourselves as temporary custodians of the collection, not as its owners. And we believe our job is to make it available to the public and encourage the public to learn about it and share it. So no, we don't feel that we should or have the right to do that. And it's also not the institution's policy to sell objects from the collection. When something is in a terrible state of disrepair, there is a deaccessioning process. So for example, a plaster that's fallen and has cracked into 1,000 pieces, there are processes that the institution can go through to deaccession something like that, but we don't sell the objects.
Alrighty, is the NNC receiving current coins from the US Mint?
Yes. We are very fortunate that we receive annual transfers from both the US Mint and the Bureau of Engraving and Printing in order to continue to be the collection of record for the US and maintain our Mint and Treasury and BEP collections, and to ensure that we are collecting today what the curators, historians, and numismatists of 100 years from now, will need in order to study 2020, 2021, so yes, we see it as part of our responsibility to continue to grow the collection and particularly to reflect the US monetary system in our national collection.
Excellent. How often is your main exhibit, Value of Money, changed?
That's a great question. Prior to COVID, we rotate and update the exhibition every year. We have about 100 pieces of paper currency, many of which need to be rotated annually to limit their exposure to light. So that is sometimes means updating content and sharing something new. And sometimes that means, we have multiple $100,000 bills. So we just rotate 100,000 for another 100,000. I'm sure that sounds like an incredible luxury as I talk about it. But the purpose is, to be able to share it with everybody. And so we need to care for the objects, but we want to make the objects accessible to the public as possible. What we do annually as well, not during COVID, is we update our new acquisitions case. The exhibition has a special new acquisitions case, and the express purpose of that is to share the new things we receive. So that might be something new from the US Mint or the Bureau of Engraving and Printing, but part of my job is also to actively collect a much wider variety of objects to continue to grow the collection. So we've had a number of wonderful new acquisitions over the years that we've been able to feature. I think you saw a picture in the video of some coins from the Saddle Ridge Board. That was one of our first new acquisition case features. We also were tremendously fortunate to receive a portion of the Howard F. Bowker collection in 2017 and 2018, and we were able to feature some incredible pieces from that collection in 2019. We have not updated it over the last 18 months because of the pandemic, but we are hopeful that we'll be able to install some new objects this coming summer. We're thinking July, is that right, Jen? July of 2022. So yes, we are actively keeping it up to date. The other thing that I like to do as a curator when there is an important news story or something really relevant to numismatics that the public is interested in is to add some of that to the gallery. So for example, Women on Money has been a big point of discussion over the last 5 years. And we did put up a temporary display about that, but when it came down, we transferred some of the pieces from that display into one of the cases in the Value of Money so that we could continue to share the history of the ways in which women have appeared on money, the history of how limited women's appearance on money has been in the US, and then also 3D printed stamp that individuals are starting to use to transform the 20 from an Andrew Jackson 20 to a Harriet Tubman 20, and to try to capture public response and individual initiative in addition to this political story around the potential change.
Excellent. Let's see, this one is kind of connected to that one and then the question before as well. Are there any plans to display the more recent America the Beautiful Quarter series?
We don't currently have plans to do that, but that doesn't mean that it wouldn't be something that we would do. I think right now with the value of money, the space is sort of limited, and we always try to capture and display what we think the public is looking for. And if that's something the public's looking for, that's great feedback for me to hear and something we can think on for sure.
Excellent. Alrighty. I've heard that donors have been able to sponsor digitization of specific parts of the collection. Can you give some idea of the cost involved, and are you open to similar future sponsorships?
Yes, we are extremely grateful for the support that we've received to digitize the collection. While we have received some crucial internal support through the Digital Programs Office at the Smithsonian, that would not be enough in order for us to do all of the digitizing we've done in recent years, and that is thanks to a combination of individual donors and also grants from institutions like the London School of Economics, for example. So yes, we are always keen to partner with individuals and organizations that want to share in our goal and the mission of making the National Numismatic Collection as publicly accessible as possible. There are countless parts of the collection still in need of digitization, from Latin America to portions of the continent of Africa to large parts of Europe, to the US coins. There are huge numbers of objects that would benefit from dedicated funding for digitization, and we're always happy to talk about that. The question on what it costs is a really hard question, because that often depends on whether there's consistency in the size and type of the object. So for a project where you're thinking about a sponsorship of a region, that might mean there are coins of 10 different sizes. But if you're talking about sponsoring a particular type of object, or a type of a coin where in Morgan dollars, for example, where things are a little bit more consistent, that would involve a different setup. And so I can't really give a good number. I can say that it's not an inexpensive process, certainly, but it's always something that we're happy to discuss and partner with. And it doesn't have to be that the individual who approaches us is the funder. If they have a part of the collection they really want to see digitized, one, we want to hear from them about what to prioritize. And two, maybe we can think together about grant-making bodies or individuals or philanthropic organizations that might support that, and we can work together to prioritize that part of the collection.
Excellent. Let's see. This one has a little bit of a story behind it as well, so we've got some discussion happening. As a collector, I had the privilege of being in the coin vault. The highlight of my visit was holding the 1849 and 1933 $20 gold pieces. These coins were in holders and kept in a special cabinet. I believe the goal was to continue holding more coins for their safety. Has this been an ongoing process? And I would like to add, can you elaborate on what form of holder that was?
Sure. And Jen, I might need a little bit of your assistance here on some of our storage questions. Okay, so I guess my first statement is, we really we love when we can share the collection in that intimate way. And I'm not sure, I have a feeling I might recognize the name. I can't see the chat while we're talking, but we love when we can host people behind the scenes. It is, I know, a tremendous thrill and also just unique sort of experience to be so close to these objects. And we have felt over the years that, particularly as we've been moving things onto display, the 1849-20 is now in the value of money. The 1933, one of the 1933s, or is it both, Jen, are now in the value of money. So they have come out of the holders that they were in and are now, carefully mounted onto the wall. There are still objects that are in holders. That's true. And it's not currently an ongoing process. If things are stored in a safe way, we leave them that way. If they have not yet been holdered, we don't have an active holdering process going on. I don't know that's the clearest answer, but there are some things that are in holders and some things that aren't, and it has a lot to do with which staff members were in place at the time, what they felt the best storage circumstances were. If we feel that something is at risk or unsafe, we will update that storage. If we feel that it's in safe, comfortable storage, we will leave it in that. We try to intervene as little as possible with the objects unless we need to. And we try to prioritize putting the things we know everybody wants to see on display. So now the 1849, for example, is of course available because we know everybody wants to see it. Jen, was there anything I missed there? Or?
No, I think you covered that very well. You know, the holders are great for parts of the collection, but for the mass of the collection, that's quite a lot, and would increase our storage footprint quite a lot. And we do have limited space, so we have to really consider that when we're doing rehousing. But yeah, I think Ellen, you said covered it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Alrighty. Then do we, being members of the public, need to request permission to publish any of the images you have in the NNC?
I don't believe so. So the catalog, the National Museum of American History's online catalog, which contains these images, does have you know, its regular disclaimer about use of the material from there, and whatever that is what applies. We don't have a specific NNC policy. So the collection is not open access in the sense that it can be used for marketing and that sort of thing. There are lots of definitions of open access, but it's open access in the sense that you can access those images, use them for your research, you know, use them for non-profitable purposes, but do read that disclaimer that the institution provides, and that's the guidance. But there are no special conditions for our objects that are different from Lincoln's hat or the ruby slippers or the other objects that are in the American History Museum.
Okay,
Jen, I want to double check with Jen that I have not.
Nope, you're correct.
Okay.
For most, you know, just educational uses, you can just use our images without requesting permission. But if you're going to publish them in a book or something like that, there is a permission form to fill out, and that information is all available on the American History website. And if you can't find it, you're welcome to email us, and I'll send that to you.
Yes, and I believe I found the link for it, so I'm going to toss that up on the screen real quick, just in case anyone wanted those details.
And I would point out that we are, you know, the Smithsonian as a whole is moving toward putting as much of the collection under the definition of open access. That really does mean that visitors can do whatever they want with the images. Very little of our collection has been designated as such so far, but the Camiscia Americana medals that we digitized in 2018, Jen, 2017.
Something like that.
Those, I believe, do have that CC0 designation now. So there are objects that have true open access in the most open, most flexible sense from the NNC, but those ones have a special designation that you will find on their records as compared to, say, you know, the Lilly collection objects, which have our more standard requirements for the institution.
Alrighty. Does the NNC obtain counterfeits from seizures made by law enforcement?
What a great question. I love the history of counterfeiting. So I love that question. We can receive transfers from the Secret Service. We can receive transfers from the U.S. Treasury, Homeland Security, and we do work with those organizations regularly. We're their collection of records, just like we're yours. And when there's something really appropriate that makes sense for us to acquire, we can, if they want to offer it, we can choose to do that. We have not recently acquired any interesting counterfeits in the Secret Service, but those kinds of transfers can happen within the government, and we are often a collection of consultation for law enforcement when they're doing investigations for they've seized something and they're trying to compare it or think about how it was produced. They often do consult our collection.
Excellent. Then I'm going to take this link down. It's fairly short, so I hope that anyone who needed it has been able to write it down by now. There we go. Okay, and then we have a follow-up from the person who had visited and handled the 1849 and the 1933 20s in the holders. Says, I was told the coins were in holders because most visitors did not know how to handle the coins carefully, so they were in holders that NGC provided.
That, I don't doubt that has been the case in the past. You know, the policies for access to the collection have changed over the years. I joined the NNC as a volunteer in 2013 and became its curator in 2014. And I know prior to that, there were a different set of policies around handling objects in the vault to visitors. you know, just a different way of interacting with the collection. We have standardized our behind the scenes visits, and both for research consultation and for special visitors who come and spend a little more time with us. And so we don't have a policy or practice of allowing handling the objects now. And so that is not a concern for us, but I have no doubt that in the past that may have been the case, and that protecting the objects while they're being handled would have been very, very important.
Alrighty, we have a few more specific questions about items that may or may not be in the collection.
Okay.
So we're gonna see if you have answers.
Get your catalog fingers ready.
If not, anyone who asked these, you should be able to look those up in the catalog online. But we're gonna see if we can get you quick answers.
Liana, I will say that so what's in the catalog is not going to reflect the breadth of the collection. We only have what we've digitized, and then basic records of some other objects that don't yet have images. So it's entirely possible we have things that you will not find in the catalog, but Jen and I will do our best to answer the question. So
alrighty,
ask us, and if we don't know the answer when we go in next, we will get the answer, and we can always respond over email.
Alrighty. Do you know if you have any examples of UK merchant countermarked silver dollars?
UK merchant countermarked. I feel like this is great trivia.
We're quizzing you.
My instinctual answer is no. Jen, I'm not sure what you think.
Yeah, I'm not sure about this one.
But
it's not something I can easily look up, unfortunately. If I was in the collection, I could get you the answer, but from home.
Please feel free to email us, whoever is asking the question. We will absolutely walk into the vault.
Yes,
next time. I think on Monday we're both in. We will walk into the vault. We will go look in the cabinets where something like that would be if we have it, and do our best to answer that question.
Alrighty, so for the person who asked, if you need that email again, just let me know in the Q&A and I'll pop that slide back up. Let's see, we had a couple other specific questions. Oh, here we go. Do you have any idea how many and what kind of Morgan silver dollar mint errors you might have?
You guys are stumping us.
Yeah, definitely stumping us. I mean, I would guess it's not a large number.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But I don't want to venture a guess at an exact number without being there with the collection. I will say that we were able to digitize the U.S. gold from the Lilly collection, but the rest of the U.S. collection is barely digitized. We were just working on a proposal the other day for support to digitize about 15,000 US coins. We have had internal support from the institution to rehouse them and inventory them, but we have not yet had the support to photograph them and take those images through the processing process and put them online. We absolutely want to prioritize that so that someone like you could then search it, and we could say with ease, yes, we've digitized the US coin collection, and if it's not there, we don't have it. But we have not had the support to do that yet. And so I don't have a great answer now, but please do email us. And we really hope something like that will be, I mean, that kind of research question is precisely what we want to make the collection available for you to be able to answer and explore and see the errors yourself and enjoy the collection the way that you should be able to.
Okay, we're gonna do one more specific question and then move back into the more general things. Just wanted to knock out a few of these in succession.
We will keep, Jen, I bet, is keeping a list. We will keep a list, and if you tell us who you are, we will get back to you with an answer.
Yes, I know the person asking about the countermarked dollars is going to email you. They sent a follow-up in the Q&A, so stay tuned. Let's see, is there any California fractional gold in the collection?
Yes.
There we go.
I can tell you yes. I don't have a good estimate in my head of how many, but Jen, looks like Jen is getting excited. Maybe
I think I might have that estimate. Hang 1 minute.
Awesome. Jen has been leading the inventory of the US coins and the rehousing process. She wrote the grant that got the internal funding for support for it, and very proud of that work. And so she is, I hope, going to be able to get a close answer on that for you. But we can always also, again, go in on, when we go in on Monday, we can get you a clear answer.
Sorry, it was fractional California?
Yes, California fractional gold.
About 300 objects.
There we go.
About, I
And Jen,
mean, about.
would you say like zero are digitized, maybe just a handful?
Maybe a handful.
Maybe a handful.
Yeah.
Okay, the person asking said that they couldn't find any by searching the website. So that could have been a search term issue, or they may not be there.
I've just started to work on these, so yeah.
Mm-hmm. Alrighty, so we're gonna move away from specific coins for a little bit. Do you have any idea?
Feel free to send us a list too, and we can always come back to you with an answer that can be shared with anyone that came to the talk or whatever venue you wish.
Yes. So do you have any idea what percentage of the coins are digitized and available online?
What percentage?
Of just US coins, or like all
it doesn't
coins?
specify. So feel free to take whichever angle you prefer, or both.
And do you want to try it? You want me to take a stab?
I'm gonna guess maybe 10% of US coins are digitized. That's my guess.
That sounds about right. We think we have what, Jen, about 17. How many?
15,000.
Does that include the Lily collection?
Yes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's more than 10%.
So there are about 12.
Math is not my strong suit.
There are about 1,250 U.S. gold coins in Lily collection, and we digitized the full Lily collection just before the pandemic started. We completed that process, so those coins are available online. And then there are other highlights that have been digitized by supporters of the NNC or through researchers who have come and taken photos and shared those with us, and we've added them to the catalog. Or the handful that's in the value of money, we were able to get nice images of those and place those online. But those are relatively small numbers of objects, compared to the whole, right? So I think, 10% might be a good guess.
Ready?
For the US coins.
Let's see, does the collection of world coins include modern issues?
Yes. And I actively collect in this area and try to keep the collection up to date. I think I have really expressed how much I care about the collection being a global collection and the importance of connecting US money and US history to global history. So I think that we need to keep the collection up to date with coins from around the world, in addition to the regular transfers we receive from the US Mint.
Alrighty, let's see. Does the NNC display any information on cryptocurrency?
Yes, we do. The value of money has a section on new innovations in money. And we talk there about mobile money, and we talk about payment dongles and credit card innovations. And we have a small display about Bitcoin. We do collect objects that reflect new innovations in money and in transactions. And Bitcoin, of course, and cryptocurrencies in general have been a big story over the last 10 years. Some of the more innovative Bitcoin-related objects that we've collected include a ring made by a student as an engagement ring for his fiance. And it has a QR code on it, and the QR code linked to a Bitcoin wallet. And he felt that instead of spending the money on a ring, on a diamond ring or a precious stone, and putting all that value into that particular item, that instead his fiance would like the money, the resource behind the object. So the QR code is is linked to a fund that is for her. My intel from the creator of this is that she didn't really like that very much, or wasn't as on board with the QR code Bitcoin ring as maybe a precious stone. But I thought it was just a fantastic object for capturing not just what Bitcoin is and is not, but also the way that people are reacting to it, how people are integrating it into their lives. And we also have in the collection lots of jewelry made from money. We have beautiful necklaces made from coins and earrings. And so I thought it was really a fantastic way to sort of add to the story of money as ornamentation, but with the cryptocurrency angle.
Alrighty, let's see. Did some branch of the government actually have to pay $100,000 each for the $100,000 notes in the NNC? Or did the BEP just print these examples off the books and send them over to the Smithsonian?
A great question. Our $100,000 bills were transferred from the U.S. Treasury. Jen, I'm right. These are all,
Yep,
all of them.
these are part of the 1978 transfer.
Yes. So we received a transfer of about 808 banknotes from the U.S. Treasury in 1978. They will actually be digitized this coming year, thanks to the support of the Howard F. Bowker Numismatic Projects Endowment Fund. That's another grant-making body that has been super supportive of digitization in the NNC. And so those 808 objects will actually be available online, we hope by the end of 2022. And I don't believe there was any sort of transfer between the BEP and the Treasury and the Smithsonian of funds when these came. I think the Treasury made the decision to transfer its collection over to us. We already had the Mint collection, and those $100,000 bills were part of that collection.
Alrighty. Oh, microphone speeding back. Do you work now or plan to work in the near future with the ANA on any numismatic educational projects?
We would love to do that. The ANA has really done a wonderful job spearheading education and engagement with young numismatists. You know, I love that there's a Girl Scout and Boy Scout badge to do with numismatics that I think they had something to do with, and love seeing their engagement on their website with young numismatists. Of course, there's a lot of wonderful work that they do with adult numismatists as well, but I think we're getting really excited about reaching young audiences, and I know they are. So I'm hoping there is some way that we can partner to, you know, create innovative and engaging resources for children related to the history of money.
Alrighty. Does any of the collection go on the road for display in other venues?
It has in the past. Yes, the collection is objects in the collection are on loan at a variety of museums around the country. Any museum can make a request for a loan for an object, and there's a loan office here that goes through that process with that body. We have had staff in the past also hand carry objects to coin shows, to other venues. I think in the past, one of the 1933 Double Eagles went on tour in Europe with a former staff member. So yes, the objects do travel. We have not traveled them recently, and certainly now with the pandemic, we don't have any imminent plans to take the collection on the road. One thing I would love to do in the longer term is create a traveling exhibit, not just individual objects, but actually have an exhibition of NNC objects that could be displayed at museums or other like educational bodies, state historical society, something like that, so that our collection could be shared more widely and in person, but we don't have current plans for that.
Alrighty, let's see, very similarly related question. Are any NNC items on display in other Smithsonian museums besides the one of American history?
Yes, they are. There are quite a few. The Freer-Sackler Gallery displays some of our coins. African-American History and Culture displays our coins in the Slavery to Freedom exhibition, as well as manillas and cowrie shells and a variety of other objects from the NNC that help tell the story of the transatlantic slave trade and the enormous human toll of that. We also have objects going into a new display at Natural History right next door to us on the history of the cell phone. I did some collecting in 2014 and 2015 around the development of mobile money, particularly in Kenya, but also in other parts of the world. And some of those objects will be on display, I think, in the coming year when that new cell phone exhibition opens. Jen, what am I forgetting? Any others? We may have.
I think those are where most are. We may have a couple objects over at the African Art Museum.
That's what I was going to do.
And at the castle, kind of the Smithsonian headquarters, we have, I think, 2 objects over there.
The Smithson medal.
Yes.
Yes. We have the Smithson medal as part of the NNC, but because it is, representation of the founder of the Smithsonian, it's currently in the central Smithsonian building known as the castle, where the Secretary's office is held.
Makes sense. Let's see, we have a little commentary on one of the last couple of questions saying that's what I'm doing, traveling coin and natural history museums, teaching at Boy Scouts and primitive skills gatherings and schools.
Great.
So, got
Love
people
hearing that.
Let's see, here is a question that's probably going to have a very multifaceted answer.
Okay.
Is there a way to see the errors? Is that something that can be looked up online, or do you have to come in person to view them?
I would say if you wanted to see them, you would have to come in person at this point. You may find their records online, but to the best of my knowledge, very few have been actually digitized. By searching something like coin and error, you should pull up a number of objects, but they likely won't have images at this point.
If you're wondering about whether once there are images, you would like once we have the digitization completed, whether those errors would be visible. We do take very high res images of the objects, and you can, I believe, download and zoom in. And so I think if the image is there, you should be able to see some of those really fine details. But until the image is there, you would need to come in person.
Alrighty. Would the Smithsonian consider assembling an exhibition of contemporary counterfeits and imitations that circulated freely in the 18th and 19th centuries, given the role these pieces played in driving the economic growth of North America during that time period?
Well, it's certainly a topic close to my heart. Yeah, I would say any topic is on the table. There's no limit to the stories that the National Numismatic Collection could tell. I think I am constantly stunned by the possibilities that the collection provides for research and for exhibition. So yes, it's a very interesting topic. I think, the American History Museum has very limited floor space, and we are just one collection among many significant national collections, at the Smithsonian. So we're incredibly lucky that we're going to have a second gallery. But a traveling exhibition would be a wonderful way to share more of the collection, and what topics that could be on is something I always love feedback on. So I think it's a wonderful topic to consider, and something that I always would welcome, emails and encouragement and insights about. The possibilities are endless, really. And I'm always keen to think about how to partner with subject experts who are specialists in areas that are either close to my heart or completely new to me. So please do reach out with your good ideas.
Alrighty. Speaking of holders and digitizing, there's much to be determined from studying the edges of numismatic items. Are there any plans on digitizing an image of the edges of the coins, specifically US pieces?
That's a great question. We know this is really important for researchers. The Smithsonian is exploring 3D digitization. We trialed this with a handful of East Asian coins in 2018. We don't currently have, plans to be able to do that, or the funds or the support to be able to do that level of digitization. But we certainly do recognize the importance of giving people access to all of the features of a coin, all of the features of an object. And while I don't have a good immediate solution to that, I can say that when there are questions about objects and we can take quick photos, to try to help answer those for people, turning around the coin repeatedly and taking photos of the edges, whatever it is, we do our best to capture that information. And then, if that's not sufficient, the Howard F. Bowker reading room, this research room that's proximate to our vault, is the place where we can host individuals who want to look themselves. And obviously during COVID, that's not possible, but we hope that that will be possible in the not too far future.
Alrighty. Did any of Mrs. Norweb's Canadian collection end up in the Smithsonian?
I believe so. But Jen, I'm looking at you to check the catalog.
I know we have quite a large Canadian token and coin collection. I believe, yes, it's the Norweb collection, but I'm hesitant to say 100%, but I do think so.
I wish we were able to do this session from the vault. Would be opening cabinets.
It would be a lot
trying to answer these questions. I mean, I will say that the joy of working with such a huge collection is that the whole world feels like it's in the vault. We can explore anywhere, anytime. It's amazing. But the challenge is that we never get to know each piece of it as well as we wish we did. And so we really do rely on direct access to the collection and catalog access when that's not possible. But of course, it's not perfect. So I'm sorry we can't give you a clear answer. But again, please email us. We will be very happy to check on Monday and get you a clear answer on numbers and donors to the Canadian collection as well.
And we do have a comment in the Q&A from someone who is well acquainted with the Smithsonian, saying the NNC accession records are quite good and could be checked for NORWeb donations. So I'm not sure if those are publicly available somewhere.
They're not publicly available in terms of being something you could go search like an online catalog, but we can search them through. So if you ask us the question, we can access those records and get the answer. It's true that we don't need to always physically be there. We can access the accession records, but there are times where the accession records and the objects don't match up. And so whenever possible, we do go to the collection itself to get the answer for the, for the inquiry that we're being asked.
Yes.
I've just tried to pull up the accession records, but my database has frozen. I think being on Zoom is slowing it down. So I can continue to look that up once we're off the call.
So send an email if you need a follow-up answer.
Sorry, technology.
Available.
One of the challenges too is we often have multiple accessions from an individual donor. So we can try to find the accession, but it's possible, that it was, a stacks accession, from 72 instead of 70. And so that's why we often go to the vault and go to the cabinets whenever we can.
Alrighty, how is the collection's depth in US pattern coinage?
Say that again.
How is the collection's depth in US pattern coinage?
Pretty deep. I mean, we certainly have, thanks to the US Mint collection, we have a remarkable collection.
I would say numbers wise, over 400 patterns of various types.
And we have on display in the value of money, I can't remember if it's 10 or 12 in that case in the Allure section, but we have that's where the 1849 is. We have a number of really recognizable, beautiful patterns on display.
Alrighty. Just so everyone's aware, we do have about 5 minutes left before we're going to have to wrap this one up. So we have time before the next session starts. So we're going to get through a few more questions and then we will have to cut it off. But if you have any that we don't get to, send an email.
Absolutely.
So let's see, is there a collection of numismatic literature and catalogs?
Yes, we have a wonderful library. We have a monographs library and we have a periodicals library, and it's the monographs library is part of the Howard F. Bowker Research Room. So we can, provide access and consultation opportunity for the library when we're allowed to host researchers alongside the collection. The Smithsonian's catalog has the vast majority of the books cataloged, and numismatics is part of the whole Smithsonian library system. But you can search under numismatic titles, numismatic authors. I think there's a numismatic subject as well. And it is Library of Congress organized. So if you're with us, you can browse the shelves also. The periodicals are not all in the database yet, the library's database, but I believe the vast majority of the titles are, even if each issue is not in the system. And the library post-COVID will continue to work to get anything that's missing onto the database. So that just want to emphasize, this is a separate database from the objects database. This is our Smithsonian library database, and it is only for publications.
Got it. How often do you discover that a coin once thought genuine is actually a counterfeit in the collection?
We do discover that. How often? That's a great question. We received our own XRF machine a few years ago and make that available to researchers. I will say that while authenticity is obviously a matter of very great interest to us and to others, it's not the most important issue for us often. I guess what I mean by that is even objects that are not authentic often have an important story to tell. So while we want to know the status of objects, if we find out that it's not an authentic object, it doesn't mean that we don't want to have it or we don't value having it. So we welcome researchers to study the objects, develop their own conclusions around authenticity, but we don't spend a lot of time worrying about objects. If there's something that looks off to us, or if we gain information that tells us that something is not authentic, we absolutely record that information and let people know when they consult it, this object is in question. But we don't go like scouring for counterfeits. One, the collection is too big, and two, there's just a huge range of quality of counterfeits, as you all know, and we're not, I'm not a coin grader or coin detector in that way. So, it does happen. It has happened, I think most frequently in recent years when we're looking at the ancient coin collection. We have about 27,000 Roman and Greek coins, and we had a number of experts come and look at those with us and start to think with us about how could we digitize this material. Is the way that it's organized making sense? Can we update labels? I'm not an expert on classical coins, no one on the team is, and so thinking carefully about how can we make this collection accessible without being experts on it. And at that time, some of the experts did point out objects that they felt were questionable, and we absolutely record that information. But they're still where they were found. They're still in the cabinets next to all the others. Jen, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think you've covered that well.
Alrighty, is there a printed catalog available for visitors to purchase about the Value of Money exhibit?
I'm almost embarrassed to do this, but since I literally have the book right here.
And say, I'll do it for you.
Okay, you do it. Please do it.
Oh, my background is
there is a book called The Value of Money, which is the sort of book version of the exhibition. And it's not every object in the exhibition. The exhibition has something like 400 objects in it. And the book, I think, has like 175. Thank you, Jen, very kind colleague. But yes, and I think it's pretty easily available online.
Alrighty, how many employees work on the numismatic collection?
So that's a great question, and it has changed over time. I'm currently the only curator of the collection. Historically, many of you will have heard of, Vladimir and Elvira Klein-Stefanelli. They were featured in the video. Dick Doty, of course, was there for many, many years. So there have been teams of curators. Currently, I'm the only curator. Jen is our collections manager. And we have a number of other staff who are working on dedicated projects. So they're not permanent staff members, but they're able to work with the collection through these grants or internal support from our collections care and digitization offices at the Smithsonian. I think we're currently 5 people, but that does vary over time.
Alrighty, and then I think that will wrap us up. There were a couple questions left. Most of them are about specific issues. So to the people who asked those, email them and they will count an answer down for you. The other one asked, or someone asked if this was being recorded and if it will be available for viewing, to which the answer is yes. The entire session has been recorded and the video with the Q&A will be available on the NNP about 2 weeks from Sunday. And then just the video itself should be up online on YouTube probably within a couple hours. So if you search, the name of this session was the same as the name of the video. So you can search that, or if you just search numismatic marketing, that's the channel that it will be up on. So if you want to rewatch that, that will be there. And then the full Q&A will also be up on the NNP a little later because it requires a little more editing to make nice. So that is going to wrap us up. Thank you everyone for such a lively Q&A session. We had a ton of great questions and participation. And of course, thank you to Ellen and Jennifer for taking the time out to sit down and talk with us. I know this was very exciting for a lot of people that got to participate. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having us. It's really always a pleasure and a joy to hear from the numismatics community. And please never hesitate to reach out to us, where we are here for you and to support your access to the National Numismatic Collection.
Excellent. All right, we have the next 2 presentations starting at 1. So got about 10 minutes to hop into those. So feel free to look at your schedules and join either of those if you're interested. Otherwise, hope to see you back throughout the weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.